Welcome to my Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials course. This should be the CCNA version 7 curriculum. This is the second of 3 courses. Welcome, Module 12, Wireless LAN Concepts. So we're going to be talking about basic wireless LANs, components, operations, management, threats, and ways to secure the wireless LAN. So let's go and jump right on in. First one is Intro to Wireless LANs. Typically a wireless LAN you'll see denoted as a WLAN or WLAN. This is basically a type of a network that is using wireless as the physical media. Even though it's not technically physical, like you don't touch the wireless signals, it's still classified as one of those types of medias. Wireless allows for the ability to be mobile. You're no longer tied to a specific infrastructure. So that makes it a little bit nice. You can now be more versatile with your devices, whether it's the laptop, tablet, whatever the case may be. Wireless infrastructure adapts to the readily changing needs in our technology. To fit our needs, that infrastructure must also be able to be adaptable. Common types of wireless. When we say wireless, typically that will mean a data wireless network. IEEE 802.11 is going to be the big one that comes to people's minds. Home wireless uses 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz range. That is that IEEE 802.11 standard. However, that is not the only wireless standard out there. We have WLANs, or wireless personal area networks. These are short range, normally within 10-20 feet, and it's based on the IEEE 802.15 standard, Bluetooth, and it also can use the 2.4 gigahertz frequencies. And again, that's going to be like Bluetooth or Zigbee. Those are some of the more common examples. So if we're talking wider area, like city-wide, that could be a WLAN, which is, again, wireless MAN. Larger geographical area, this might be using things such as WiMAX, for example. Lastly, we have wireless WANs, WLANs. These are extensive geographical areas, countries. This could be satellite or other high-powered wireless functions. So let's look at some of these wireless technologies. Again, Bluetooth, that's going to be the predominant wireless PAN. We're looking for things like under 100 meters. That's going to be things like our hands-free unit to our car or a headset. So those are two of the more common ones. Bluetooth has two main forms of connectivity. Bluetooth Low Energy, that's BLE, and this supports a mesh topology to a larger scale network device. And we have Bluetooth Basic Rate and Enhanced Rate, BR-EDR. This will support more of a point-to-point topology, and it's more optimized for audio streaming. When we are doing our wireless PANs, it really just depends on what are we trying to accomplish, and that dictates what version of Bluetooth we would be using. I said earlier when we talked about a MAN, something called WiMAX. WiMAX is a worldwide interoperability for microwave access. Essentially, it's an alternative broadband wired internet connections. It uses IEEE's 802.16 standard, wireless standard, and it's for wireless up to 30 miles, or about 15 kilometers. Again, city-wide wireless MANs are probably looking at this WiMAX technology. Other wireless is going to be things like cellular broadband. That's going to be our mobile devices. Two main types of mobile devices either use the Global System for Mobile, GSM, or they use a code division multi-access. CDMA is very heavily in the US, where GSM is used everywhere else. We also have a satellite broadband, internet via directional satellite dishes. That's another type of wireless, and that's more for the rural areas that cannot have high-speed internet via a traditional wired connection. So what are some of our common 802.11 wireless standards? Well, 802.11 became the first standard for wireless. That was about 2 megabits per second. It also used the 2.4 gigahertz range. After that, we had the 802.11a. It no longer used the 2 gigahertz range, it now used the 5 gigahertz range. And it allowed for faster connectivity at 54 megabits per second. However, this was extremely expensive. An alternative to that was 802.11b. It used the 2.4 gigahertz. It also was a little slower, but it was a little longer range and offered better penetrability when it came to structures. With A, anything that, like a wall for example, would absorb the signal, so it wasn't very realistic. B was a little slower speed, but could go the distance. After B, we got G. G also uses the 2.4 gigahertz range, but it allowed for up to 54 megabits, and it was also backwards compatible. One of the important parts here is recognizing the frequencies. If you have the same frequency, more often than not, most of these systems are backwards compatible, but if they are different frequencies, they don't quite work like that. After G being the predominant technology for a while, we got 802.11n. This uses both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz and allowed for drastically faster connectivity, though it required a technology called MIMO. And this is basically multiple antennas to allow for our signals. After N, AC became very popular. AC is using 5 gigahertz, and again, drastic and increase in speed, and it supports up to 8 antennas. AC is where we are currently at. However, the 802.11ax is also starting to see some progress in the market share, and that is using both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, and is being defined as a highly efficient wireless, so new, and it's capable of using the 1 gigahertz and 7 gigahertz frequencies. So we are slowly backing away from our free frequency ranges, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, that have been overly crowded. So AC is our current standard, AX is where we're going to be heading towards. So we're talking frequencies. Does that mean it only uses 2.4 gigahertz, or what exactly does that mean? So our radio frequencies, again, 2.4 being the UHF, 5 gigahertz being the SHF frequencies. That's kind of in between the infrared and ultraviolet ranges. That's things that are visible. But the nice thing is our wireless, our satellite, our radios, our microwaves, all of them are still before infrared. Our ultraviolet is what we can see. So we actually cannot see any of our wireless devices. So we have to be able to understand how we can see these. If we can't see them with our eyes, we have to have a measuring. This is normally done through what's called a site survey. The site survey will see what frequencies are around us, and it will interpret what those frequencies are, so we can see saturation. Saturation is just how much wireless signal in a specific range is at a given location. And you'll also look at the amplitude and the frequency. Our frequency with our wireless actually is farther apart. As we start getting more towards visible light, our amplitude stays roughly the same, but our frequency actually compacts itself. When we get closer to gamma ray, our frequency is very closely packed together. So who organizes all of this? We have several wireless organizations. Wi-Fi Alliance is going to probably be the largest, and that's for predominantly the 802.11 wireless standard. However, if we're talking wireless in general, IEEE comes up with most of our wired and wireless standards. If we're dealing with unionized groups that are more international. It's going to be the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. They regulate and allocate radio spectrums and satellite orbits. So this group is, again, international, but they deal with radio frequencies. What is very interesting is when you're in an area, let's say you have 102.7 FM. That's a radio frequency that you were given a license for. You pay for that license. Anyone that is using that frequency is in violation of your license. However, that license is for a specific area. Each new town or each new area may have the same frequency license for that area. I use 102.7 FM because it's very common, especially in the western US, and the interesting part is it's common and each town has their own radio station on that frequency. That just goes to show that that frequency is being licensed in that area. Questions, concerns, please reach out. Thank you.